Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. Can I say that? Yes, it's still January. So happy New Year. We are here with our alumni guest, Evie King. She's been with us before, and we're so excited to have her back. So, Evie, how are you?
I am doing well. And Nicole, anytime I get to chat with you all, it's just so much fun.
Yeah, we'll try to keep it within an hour. Like I always say, we always have so much fun, and we could talk all day long about wellness, especially this topic. So, thank you for joining us today. And it's such an important topic for this year, and for we hear from all of the military spouses around the world coming to our events, and wellness is one of those topics that everybody just really wants us to lean in on this year. So we are excited to work with Independent with Evie, and we'll get into that in a second. The entire year to really focus on wellness so that we can focus on ourselves, so that we can be better for everyone else around us. So Evie, for those who may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll just jump right in.
Yeah, happy to do that. My name, like everyone's been saying, is Evie King. A lot of people may see my name for the first time online and think Evie, but it's Evie. And my spouse and I, we recently moved to Germany at the very, very tail end of August last year. So not even been here 6 months yet, and still so much to learn, so much to learn. I'm an Army brat. Both of my parents were in the military, so I have had the pleasure of using USO services my entire life pretty much, which has been wonderful. And then I married a service member, even though out of all of my siblings, I'm the one who, for whatever reason, I don't know why, said I would never marry a service member. I don't know why I ever said that, but well, joke's on me. And it's the best decision I've ever made, and not without its hardships, of course. I don't know. I love this life, even though there are definitely times when it is very hard.
Yes. Well, and I feel like the past 2 years, in addition to military spouse life, have been so hard. So again, we're gonna unpack the wellness, the everything wellness today with everybody. So as I'm mentioning the Independent Wellness Summit, Evie, can you tell us a little bit about that and how everybody how we can get involved?
Yeah. So Independent is a nonprofit focused solely on the health and wellness of military spouses, mostly because, one, we're a team of military spouses, but we also realize there's nothing really out there that's talking about the military spouse when it comes to wellness. And I always like to tell people that, one, we're the constant, as you probably all know, watching this, listening. We're the constant in the household, often making a lot of the choices that impact the health and well-being of whether it's your military child or your service member or even just your community. And there wasn't really anybody talking about our specific needs or encouraging us to focus on our needs. And so that's why Independent was created, actually by the founders, which I am not a founder, while they were stationed in Germany. So I can definitely see why they started Independent out here. I think a lot of that, at least for me, has to do with just the nature of what's going on in the world right now. I had a moment this week where I was feeling quite isolated because I work from home. A lot of things aren't available to me right now. And so it's hard, even though I'm so grateful that we have this opportunity to live abroad. But out of that came, making wellness accessible. We decided there are so many fantastic events, but 7 years ago, virtual wasn't really a thing, but we realized that virtual is what we needed for a wellness event. And so we created an event, as we say, it's an anytime, anywhere wellness event that you can enjoy, whether you are stationed in Washington, D.C., Germany, South Korea, it doesn't matter. You get the exact same experience with 10 fantastic interviews that are all recorded with some people who are military, some people who are not, because I like to say wellness is the ultimate unifier between the civilian world and the military world, because we're all humans.
Right.
But we created this event, and general admission is always free. But with that, you only get to access the interviews for 2 weeks. Okay. And with all access, you can have them forever. And often we have people who listen to them at certain times of their life or certain seasons, and they get something else from them that maybe they didn't listen or hear the first time around.
Excellent. Good. And what I love about the Independent Wellness Summit is that you can unplug, you can take, an hour or two of your day, go for a walk, or, just go get cozy, get your blanket, get your slippers on, and just listen, take some time for you and learn something new. And just, it's fabulous. I love it. So, yes. I mean, you laugh, you cry. It's so much goodness. So super excited about that. But I also wanted to talk about the branches of wellness, because you think of wellness and instantly when I think of wellness, I think, okay, I have to work out and I need to eat right.
As I have gotten a little bit more experience with life, and I mean, last year my spouse was deployed, the longest he's ever been gone. It was 416 days. And wellness looked very different during that time. And so I think it's quite limiting to think that it's only fitness and nutrition. And when we started unpacking what we wanted that to look like and for Independent to focus on, we realized, well, there's creative wellness. One of the things that a lot of people love to do is paint or write or craft things. And we never really captured that before, but now we realize, well, that is a part of wellness that needs to be discussed. Art therapy is a real thing. Right. Obviously, mental wellness is becoming more important. It's kind of got the spotlight right now, as it should be. But also social wellness, the relationships that we have with our spouse, with our children, with our community members or our friends can very much so impact our feelings of well-being and happiness. Environmental. I mean, how many of you during COVID, when you were stuck at home for days on end, looked at something that maybe you were fine with before and all of a sudden realized, like, wow, I hate this wall color or the way this room is arranged now that I'm stuck here for hours on end. And you realize that what you surround yourself with also impacts how you feel about things. When your room is cluttered, that impacts how you feel. Financial wellness, right? Like being able to provide for your family or plan for the future reduces stress. Then we have, of course, your occupational, and that could mean a lot of things. You could have a job, you could volunteer, you could be going to school, but how are you growing as an individual? There are just so many different areas of wellness that I think now we're starting to discuss, but we wanted to make sure, especially here at Independent, that nothing was dropped or left off the table, because wellness not only looks different for everybody, but can also look different depending on where the military sends you.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's incredible. And there's, like you said, there's just so many different options to go into. So if for some reason you can't get that physical wellness, right now, because just life is happening and you're just like, I cannot get that walk in, or I can't, go and ride the bike for a couple minutes, then what's another area that will fill your cup and maybe go journal, go paint a picture, and you don't have to be Van Gogh, get some paints out and
painting is fine.
Yes, have fun with it.
Yeah, someone in the chat said they got a calligraphy set for Christmas. I mean, all of those are you taking time for your own well-being, and maybe you didn't realize that before. One of the things that I love to do, it's a puzzle, is putting together a puzzle. And I never thought of that as self-care, but now that I have, it's just opened up this whole world of possibilities outside of, did I get enough vegetables today?
Right, exactly. Because that can stress you out,
Yeah.
That's so true. And something that I started doing a couple months ago, and I absolutely love it. I started to get text messages sent to me with positive affirmations throughout the day. So this morning I woke up and it said, you're going to have a great day today, do awesome things. And I'm like, Yes. Okay. And then it just continues to text me throughout the day with these little positive messages that I also work from home. So, the people I'm talking to, I love my teammates. I love you all. But like, I'm used to being around a ton of people and not getting positive affirmations or just even conversation outside of work. It's hard. So it's just like, this is something that helps me. And I've found it to really be a great thing throughout the day for me to be like, oh yeah, it is going to be a good day. I like this. So
Right. Yeah. We're finding those different ways to fill in what we miss now that we're no longer in the office or maybe surrounded by friends. Because you might have had someone being like, there's usually that person in the office who's like super, I don't know, I wouldn't say the cheerleader. I generally fall in that category where I'm going around, especially on a Friday or a Monday. I'm like, yeah, happy Monday, guys. Everyone's like, Evie, tone the energy down. And now I like walk through my house, which is completely empty. And I'm like,
right. Be like, look at your app. Yeah, yes, yeah. Like, I'm awesome. I'm so good. And I'm curious to know what other spouses are doing throughout the day, throughout the week, even, just throughout the month to lean in on wellness, because it's fun to see other creative ideas out there as well. And as we are looking at that, and we can kind of call some of those out, because I saw crochet in there and just having hobbies, reading. I'll take a look here and see a question that was coming in from one of our registered spouses. Lisa wanted to know, how do I enjoy self-care or me time without feeling guilty? So what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, first of all, like you said, the answers and the comments for this discussion have been fantastic. So I'm really interested to know. I do not have children, so I try very hard to think from the perspective of just women and military spouses in general, based off of the experiences that I have. But I would love to know what other people are doing. But one of the ways that I think as a community we can help with this is really just encouraging each other to take those moments that we need. So whether that's encouraging our fellow spouse to be like, yes, go on a Saturday and say to your spouse, like, hey, I'm going to go grocery shopping and I'm going to grab a coffee afterwards. So I'm going to be gone instead of 1 hour, I'm going to be gone 2 hours. And I think as a community, the more and more that we encourage each other to do that, the more and more that we share that we are doing that, we're giving each other permission to kind of break through that guilt. The other thing that my friends who do have children have said that they're really trying hard to do is to practice taking care of themselves so that the next generation doesn't deal with the guilt that we're doing. So I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but in some ways you kind of are. Maybe you still kind of feel a little bit guilty when you're taking care of yourself, but by acting in that way and saying my needs are a priority, you're also setting an example for your children, your friends, and maybe even someone who needs that example in order to take that step themselves. So I think the more and more we're public about how we're taking care of ourselves, that just helps all of us realize, like, it's okay that I'm doing that. If you ever need someone to tell you to take care of your needs and to do it unapologetically, I am your girl. I'm the person who says vacation days are not just for you to take so that you can go on vacation with your family. Like, take a half day, go home. There's something about taking a bath at 1 o'clock in the afternoon when no one's home and it's a random Thursday. It just feels different. Yeah. And really, using those moments to take care of yourself, and know that you are worth it. As I always say, military spouse wellness matters. Like, you matter, you're a whole person right now, and you don't need a reason to say, hey, I need this. Like, if you need it, just do it.
Right. 100%. And I think of the airplane analogy. It kind of makes me laugh when you get on the airplane and they're like, put your mask on first. Like,
Yeah.
because you, you are important. Put your mask on first and then help the others. It's like, are they calling me out? Cause it's like, you instantly think of others always, like I need to. So it's like, yes, fill your cup, take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
And then once you're taken care of, then you can help the other people in your life. So
I have a friend who is currently on maternity leave, and I asked her what she was doing. She was like, "Oh, I'm doing a whole bunch of house projects and da 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 while the baby sleeps." And I'm just thinking to myself, like, that's not really the point of maternity leave. And she goes, "But yesterday, all I did was veg out on the couch, watch garbage TV that like did nothing to my personal growth. And I just relaxed and rested." And she was like, "I don't know why it took me almost a month for me to realize that I don't need to be productive every single day. I don't need to validate that I am a productive member of society, every single day. And it's okay to rest." And one of my volunteers, December, was all about breaking the rules. And one of the things she said, she was like, "What if we came from the perspective that rest is not a reward, but rest is the beginning, and from rest, we do everything else?" And I won't lie, I am really struggling with that kind of flip-flop, but I am trying to think like, how does that change the way that I view my own rest?
Right.
As rather than like, "Oh, I'm going to do all this stuff and then I'll be able to rest." It's like, how can I rest so that I can do all the stuff that I need to do?
The housework will always be there. Housework will always be there. Those dishes can wait. Like, it's like, one of my indulgences and is to get one of those magazines that tells all things everything, like that everybody's like, "You read that?" Yes, I read that and I love it. But it's just like, I see the dishes, I see things that need to be folded, and it's like, nope, I'm going to go sit down and I'm going to read about all of this stuff that's, like, because it takes me to another place where it's just like, I don't have to think about the other stuff. So it's like, I feel like this year I've done a lot better on saying, okay, let's lean in and focus on wellness for sure. And I love the maternity.
Oh yeah.
I was going to say, during maternity leave, I definitely sat on the couch and watched all of the seasons of Gilmore Girls. So yes, take that time for you.
Great show. The other thing, and this is kind of a practical way to get over the guilt, because everything I think I said is more like encouragement, a practical way to get over the guilt. So I'm going to be very vulnerable right now and say that I have built into my day a nap every single day, because that is important to me. I am not a morning person. I really struggle with that. But if I know I have a nap from 1 to 2, and I don't necessarily have to nap, it's just there, I'll wake up at 7, and be like, yeah, okay, I got a nap going. So if you are struggling with that, so I think I read someone is struggling with trying to finish a book. Plan that into your day and start small and do something else while you're doing it. So maybe that's when you get to drink your hot beverage. But when you plan it into your day, you realize, and everything else also fits into your day, you're realizing that you're not doing something else in order to accomplish something for you. So you don't feel like you're not being able to accomplish your other responsibilities. Instead, okay, this 30 minutes, while I'm still able to do X, Y, or Z, or this hour that I'm setting aside for me, really isn't impacting my ability to do all the other things that I need to do. So when you make that time for yourself and plan your day around it, I think you'll realize that you actually do have that time when it's worked into your day, and you're not feeling like you're giving up some time that you feel that you should be doing meal prep or something for your children or whatever else it happens to be. And you know what? And this might not be what, all the doctors and whatever are saying out there, but if you need to put your children in front of a tablet or a TV for those 30 minutes in order for you to read a book, do it.
Yes, yes. There are some educational programs out there for children.
Right. Yeah. And they also need to veg out too. So
Right.
family veg time.
Yes.
Let's make that a thing.
Yes.
And if you want to have a veggie tray during family veg time,
yes,
I won't stop you.
making memories. It's all about it. Well, and I also want to talk about, okay, so we're in a new year. It's we're almost into the next month, and there's people who are like, I have not followed through with my New Year's resolution. I'm done. Like, I can't. It's just not going to work. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, when we were talking about what some of the discussions for today, I think I went on a little bit of a rant about this because, and please let me know if anyone else was this way, but like the first 2 weeks of January did not go how I thought they were going to go, because pretty much my entire family was sick. Most of my coworkers were sick. Our team members were sick, or they had kids who were sick. So I feel like we all started, or many of us started the year in a place that we weren't planning on starting the year. And I was feeling really down about that. And then I realized, like, yes, January 1st is a really neatly packaged starting point, but there's no start police out there, right? There's no one saying that you can't start right now with whatever that you want to do in order to change your life. Like if you said, I want to start right now, eating a vegetable with breakfast every morning, someone's not going to say, well, you didn't start that on January 1st, so this year is gone. Like start in 2023. There's nobody out there doing that. So I think while again, it's that nice, neat starting point, it's again, whose rule was that? And why do we feel like we have to follow? Start whenever you want. Start today, start tomorrow, start in an hour, start next Monday, start on February 1st. Like you get to choose what the day that you want, the day of the week or the day of the month that you want to start, insert new goal or fresh perspective or new class. You get to choose. And there's nobody out there saying no.
Right. And I love that so much. I mean, I need to hear that. Our household is struggling right now with illnesses, daycare issues. It's tough, y'all. Like right now is tough. So it's yeah. I mean, there's always tomorrow. There's always tomorrow.
There is. Yeah, exactly. There's always tomorrow. And you don't even need to start tomorrow. You can say, you know what? My goal this year was to drink more water. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I haven't drank any water today. The day is not over. Go grab a glass.
Right. Yes. I mean, now I'm like, now I need water. I need water. I need a nap, and I need to take a bath later on. Like today is just going to be amazing.
Yeah. Right? I know. It's something to look forward to.
We're gonna have so much fun. Okay, now the next topic that I wanted to talk about, because I'm really excited about it, and I have Googled it over and over and over again. So now Google is sharing like all of these ideas with me, like, you like this now. And it is called Hygge. It is spelled Hygge, and my dear friend Laura introduced it to our entire team, and now we're all kind of obsessed. So Evie, I know you were reading about it, so let's talk about Hygge. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there it is.
Yeah. So I think the reason that I was drawn to it is, well, one, everyone said you need to look into what this is. And then when I was reading about where the word came from, it comes from the Danish word for well-being, which makes so much sense because most of what I am reading, and Nicole, I'm sure what you're reading, like that's the feeling that you get. And so in here, it's like, how do you make hygge in your home? And it's like, blankets, for example, the lighting that you have in your home. So the first chapter of this book opens with candles. Apparently the candles are a big thing because they give that gold light. And I started realizing the rooms that I tend to gravitate towards in my house are all the ones that have that warm light. And that's because those rooms feel cozy for me. And, I didn't realize how much of this I already incorporate into my life. Like, I love warm beverages. I really enjoy soup. I love cuddling on the couch with a book, cozy socks. I mean, all of those are Hygge, and it's not hard to do.
And I read, like, just practice a little bit of Hygge in your life every day. I mean, it's even just wearing fluffy slippers and, like you said, just being cozy, and just when you walk down the street and you just give somebody a warm smile, just practicing the art of Hygge. Am I saying yes, Hygge? I'm like,
Hygge, I know.
I'm gonna say Hygge because that's, but Hygge, practicing it, just even when you're out and about, or and just more bringing it more into your life for sure. So I love it. I have a salt lamp. I have 2 salt lamps, and I was actually going to bring it, but it would probably just not fit on my tiny little table here. But even salt lamps just bring a really nice ambiance to any room. So something to think about there. But salt lamps, Hygge, all of this, what trends are you seeing in the wellness space right now that we could take a look at, or that you're like, I bet you haven't thought about this yet? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so I always try to stay up to date on what the civilian world is doing.
No, but we were talking about trends that we should be practicing, trends that we should be looking at, stuff like that.
Yeah, so I think what is always, to me, the challenge is of being a military spouse and looking at these trends is it can kind of seem like they're impossible to incorporate. So one of the trends that I was reading about was people are incorporating more, alternative holistic health, not just going to your medical provider and getting, medicine, but going to get chiropractic care or things like that. And unfortunately, we're still a little bit behind in having that covered by insurance right now. So a lot of us have to pay for that out of pocket, or choose to do other things. So yoga is a great alternative to chiropractic care if you can find it. There are a lot of free videos on YouTube, all about stretching your back, especially if you're finding yourself sitting. But what I will say is that will never, ever take the place of going to a chiropractor. And that's just something that's a little bit sad. If you are stationed in South Korea or in Japan, I would go and get acupuncture probably on a weekly basis because it was $10. It was pretty incredible. Wow. I experienced cupping for the first time there, which is it makes your back really like a lot of bruising. It's not the most attractive alternative health out there. If you've ever tried cupping, I will say that. But, a lot of us don't have access to that. But what we do have access to is nature. And in the last year, actually, since the pandemic started, more than 50% of there's been an increase of more than 50% of people saying that they're going outside and moving. And last year, as you know, we had a conversation with a speaker during the Wellness Summit about forest bathing. So it's not even about going outside in nature and going on a walk, but it's just being present in that moment. It's taking off your socks and putting your feet in the grass or in the sand and really feeling the senses of the grains of sand in between your toes, or the heat of the sand, or the kind of a little bit of a tickleness from the grass, and then the sounds of the birds. And so forest bathing is a trend right now. And a lot of people are doing it. And it's really interesting because before the summit last year, I had never heard of forest bathing. And I think if anyone had told me that they were forest bathing, I would have thought of a bathtub in the forest.
Right. But I'm still interested. I'm like, sign me up. What does that entail?
Yeah. And then the other thing that what is a trend still is just that people are finding different ways to practice self-care different than what they had before, especially if you were the type of person to go to workout classes. And so the amount of live virtual classes that are available now at a very affordable price, whether you have an active subscription, or you're following someone on Instagram who's doing an Instagram live, so that's free. Obviously, Peloton is a big one, but people still want those connections. But because we're sort of limited in how we're doing them, those live classes are happening. And so similar to this coffee connection with the chats and everything, like, I feel like it's not just you and I, Nicole, who are chatting right now, but it's us and, so many of our military spouse friends.
Right. We're all hanging out, having coffee to cheers to you all. Make sure that if we didn't say USO, or you didn't even know that USO was for military spouses, we are. And we come check out Coffee Connections, make some friends there. We have these Coffee Connection lives if you can't get to a USO center, or you just can't get out of the house. This is just another way for you to connect and make some friends. So we're thrilled you are all here.
Can I say one more thing about trends? Because this actually is good for those of us on the chat, or those of you who are on the chat who are potentially pregnant right now or thinking of conceiving at some point in the future. So there's a pilot program for doulas being covered by TRICARE. Currently, it is for those who are going to be having their births outside of a military treatment facility. Although military treatment facilities, what I mean by that, if you don't know, those are the hospitals on base. You can bring a doula in with you, but it currently is not covered by TRICARE. But there is a pilot program for those who are giving birth off base to have that covered. And it covers like some sessions before or after, because the military is looking more into that fourth trimester because, and I found this really fascinating. So we have like 42% less pregnancy related deaths than the civilian population. But the fourth trimester is a lot harder. And I don't need to tell any military spouses, because you probably know that, because often we're separated from our families. There's those extra feelings of isolation, especially if you just PCS'd and you really don't know anyone and you're at home with your child. And so it's covering 6 pre-birth and postpartum visits by a doula. So I'm really interested to see where that goes. But something kind of sad from that. So before that, 6 lactation counseling sessions were covered by TRICARE, regardless of on base or off base. Only 5% of new moms used that benefit. And so what I always say is, as military spouses, we're asking for these things, but also use them. Yes. Because when you use them, you are validating to the military that they are important to us, and they're more likely to offer them. So really look into it if you are going to be giving birth in the next year, especially if you're doing that off base. See if that's something that you qualify for, if you're interested in. It's a pilot program. So basically what that means is if it's not validated, then it's not going to happen. And so we have this really neat opportunity right now to basically tell the military, like, yeah, we want this.
Yeah, that's huge. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we need to hear about those types of things and share with the community these types of resources, or else, they'll take it away and try something else. But it's so important too, because for the fourth trimester can be hard, and you don't know as a new mom what these signs are. You're just kind of like, this has to be normal. Has to be what everybody else is feeling. And it's somebody to come check on you that would have been amazing. So
yeah. My sister-in-law is Dutch, and she gets that. And she just had a baby last March, and they had someone come like every week for a couple of weeks right after she gave birth to not only check on the baby, but her, and to make sure that, the baby was latching properly if she decided to breastfeed, and that, and like literally it was an opportunity for them to ask this expert questions that maybe they weren't comfortable, or Google was giving them 8,000 different ways to handle it and they were just overwhelmed.
Well, and as we're talking about community too, what are some ways that we can practice wellness together as a community with our female military spouse friends, with our male military spouse friends? What what is there? What kind of options or what do you suggest where we can say, oh, let's get together and do this?
Yeah, I think that there are always so many fun things that you can do, whether it's at just a coffee, military spouse coffee, as we call them, or you're just having friends come over. So the first thing that I will say is, please, if you are located somewhere and you've been there for a little while and you have a good group of friends and you know someone new in the community, the best thing that we can do as a community is be welcoming. There are so many articles about how the new person can enter the community, but I also think that the easiest thing to do is when the community welcomes the new person. We've all been there, and yeah, I just think that we can be more welcoming. So if you're going to have something at your house, try and invite somebody new so that they feel welcomed. But some of the ideas that I've had and I've been to are a cookbook swap. I don't know about you, but I buy cookbooks because I prefer them to looking online. But I may or may not make all of the recipes, usually maybe one or two. And so I have a pile of cookbooks. And so you can do like a cookbook swap. Or you can buy ingredients, or everyone can bring an ingredient and you can make your own bath salts, for example. There are some really affordable things out there that you can all buy and bring and make your own bath salts. I mean, I've seen even people who everyone brings a soup and everyone brings like a mason jar, and then everyone just like takes a portion of the different soups, and then instead of eating the same soup over the week, you eat 5 different ones over the week, but you only had to cook one. So I think that those are, yeah, I know. I was like, genius.
It's like a cookie exchange, but it's like soup exchange, and that is brilliant.
Right. Oh yeah, especially I've done that before, not this past deployment just because it was during COVID, but I have done that before during a deployment, and it was a really fun way for the families to get together. It reduced the stress of cooking throughout the week. Talking about Hygge, soup, again, it's very comforting. It kind of is like a little hug in a bowl, and it reduces the stress of mealtime.
So good. Oh, so fun.
One just talked about a clothing swap. I have not done that yet, but just think of the possibilities before or after a PCS, probably before. You can do a clothing swap. That's genius.
Yes. Or a toy swap. I've heard of moms
toy swap.
We just loaded up a box of cars and like toys and everything that we're going to ship to one of our other military. Hope she's not watching, because it's going to be like, surprise, you're getting this. But we're going to ship it to her little 5-year-old, and then he's going to open it up and he has a whole new box of toys. And it's like, to us, we're like, get it out. But to him, they're going to be so excited because it's something new that he can play with. So, just like a toy swap of some sort. Super fun. But I love the clothing swap and jewelry swap. I've done that before. Everybody brings like 5 pieces of jewelry they don't wear anymore. And then you just put it in the middle and you go around, take turns and pull some jewelry out. I mean, there's so many fun things.
You can do a hat swap. Yes. I have some guy friends who collect hats or mugs, but they collect hats, and I'm sure,
yes,
there's some really cool hats out there, and maybe you want a different variety. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think, to have those activities. And one of the reasons that I like them, especially if you're opening it up to new people, is that when you have these things for people to do, so it could even be getting together and putting a puzzle together or whatever, is that when you have these activities to do, it makes it a lot easier to have a conversation. That just kind of flows a lot better than everyone just sitting in a circle looking at each other and going like, okay, I don't know, it's just more natural. It's more natural.
100%. Oh boy, those are fun too. Yeah. Love it. So how can we make wellness more accessible? Because, some of us are like, I don't have money to go get a pedicure every month or a massage or whatever, or I don't have the time. So what are little tips and tricks that you can give us to say, let's make this happen?
Yeah. So obviously, besides attending the Wellness Summit, which is completely free and virtual. Things like this, you are taking time for your wellness by joining in a coffee connection, engaging in conversation in the chat, and all you did was sign in, and participate. So what is like the barriers to wellness, right? You have time, cost. I am a huge fan of a self-care budget. When you budget, you're putting a plan in place. That money is meant to be spent in a specific way, and it's not taking away from anything else that you need to spend your money on. And so you don't, again, have those feelings of guilt. And you can use that on whatever you want if you're planning that into your budget. So if you are a budgeting person, or maybe if you haven't, I highly recommend you and your spouse, because your service member also needs some self-care, really thinking about what it is that you enjoy doing. Free ways of self-care I'm really big on those right now, because like I said, everything's kind of closed here in Germany. But getting outside, I think, is one of the most accessible forms of self-care that we have. Right now in Germany, it is gray, it is cold. I really don't want to go outside, but every time I do, it just changes my mood. And even if it's just for a 5-minute walk to the mailbox. The other things that I think that we think of self-care as like getting massages and maybe even your haircuts and all of those other things. But self-care is also investing in yourself. So right now there are tons of organizations or even opportunities maybe for you to work part-time. And I had a volunteer recently tell me volunteering at Independent was her self-care. And that was a kind of a compliment, because wow, you're volunteering your time with us. But she was like, this is my time where I get to do something for me. And I get to think about things in a way that I don't get to think about. She's been a stay-at-home mom for 20 years, and basically her life is revolved around her children. And she's like, this is my time where I get to think and be creative in a way that I haven't been creative before. I am a huge proponent of volunteer work, but I always say volunteer with intention. Don't just give your gift of time away to something. But there are so many organizations that can that take the time that you're donating, as I like to say, the gift of your time, and can really turn it into something incredible. But at the same time, you're feeding into your own self-care bank at the same time. So just make sure that how you're donating your time is doing that, and it's not draining you, because that's when you're being unproductive. Other ways that you can make self-care accessible is, what are the rules around self-care right now that you're struggling with? So that could be drinking half your body weight in water, right? I think if we all examined the rules that we have, like eating dinner as a family, maybe that doesn't work for your military family. Maybe it's eating breakfast as a family.
Right.
Another thing that you can do is come together and think of, okay, what can we do on a Friday that doesn't involve screens?
Right.
That we can do in our own home. Let's break out some of those board games. All of our families probably have at least one board game.
Right.
Maybe you got another one at Christmas. You maybe play it once and then you never see it again. It's free. It's there. I love the library.
Yes.
So it's free. Most military bases have them. Most communities have them. And you can go there as a family and just let your kids explore, let you explore. You might find a topic that you've always wanted to learn about and just never had that opportunity. And it's free. So I think it's just fun to kind of come up with different ways to feed into our own self-care without spending money. I kind of see it as a challenge. like
right.
the pantry challenge, you know, how long can I go without going to the grocery store? Like,
Oh,
how weird can my meals get? Like, that's
right.
fun for me.
I was gonna say my husband gets so mad when I was like, but we have all of this. Like there's there's soybeans, we've got some pasta, and we've got diced tomatoes. Let's make something wonderful. But
Yeah. I have added hummus to pasta before, and you wouldn't know it, but it actually tastes pretty good with some
really
diced canned tomatoes. Yeah, it's good.
tasty.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you talked about the library because that's starting to be one of our favorite go-tos because yes, it's free. The kids can get as many books as they want.
Mhm.
For free. And it's one of those things now when we go to each community, when we PCS, one of the first things I do is go and get a library card. Because then I've even started to, I made connections at our last location we were at. I made friends there because the kids are just playing and then you just start talking to the other parents and become friends with them. But then even here, I'm like, oh, you kind of feel like a local when you see familiar faces, you know, like it's like, I'd always come home and tell my husband, like, I saw someone I know today. Like that is a big deal because we're only here for 2 years or less. So it's just, you know, fun things like that. So
I love also the library because you can give the books back. So talking about your environmental wellness and just clutter in general, you don't have to take those books with you. So you can kind of enjoy them and then they don't take up space in your home. And books are expensive to move.
Expensive.
If you have a lot of books, they can take up a lot of your household good pounds.
Yes, and then the DVDs and all of that, like there's just it's a ton of fun. I don't know. And then our library has the huge chess pieces that you can play, like the large.
How fun!
So, how cool is that?
Yeah,
yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Library. I mean, it's fun exploring there. I'm always just like, this place is so cool. Oh, okay. Let's jump into a couple more things, and then we will be at time. This went by so fast. I know we talked about incorporating wellness with friends and trying to bring other community members or, you know, just other friends to do some fun wellness things together. But what about our spouse? What can we do to practice wellness with our spouse and or?
Well, I think it always starts with a conversation because we obviously are all going into our marriages with the expectation of what it's going to look like. And maybe you think you know what your spouse needs, but it could have changed. And so always talking with your spouse about what they want to do as well. And I recently had this conversation with my husband because I was like, I want to work out more, but I need that a person to be doing it with me. Right. And he was like, well, I'm going to do it at 5 a.m. in the morning. And I was like, that is not happening for me. Right. Like, don't make a commitment to yourself that you already know that you're not going to do. And I know enough about myself to know 5 a.m. isn't happening. Anyway, so we negotiated and now it's 6:30. Again, that nap in the afternoon. But the things that we really love doing, we absolutely love going on walks, and we love to try new food, which has been a challenge right now because all the restaurants are only doing takeout. But we go on a lot of walks, and during those walks, we have some of the best conversations. The other thing that we do is we watch a TV show while we eat dinner, which I know is like, again, right? Everyone says, don't do that. But, you know, my husband and I, we work until 7-8 o'clock every night. But we also want to watch a TV show. And honestly, by the end of the day, we're just so exhausted. And it's also become something that has created some inside jokes. And so I think once you start having those conversations and you create what self-care looks like for you guys, and who cares if no one else understands what that means, but if it works for you, then that's all that matters. And that could also mean that sometimes you guys need self-care away from each other. And so, you know, again, having that conversation saying, okay, tonight you're going to go out with friends. Well, tomorrow I'm going to go out with friends. Or maybe it's actually saying no to going to a military function, you know?
Right. So true.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the most successful self-care as a couple just starts with that conversation and being honest with each other about your needs.
Yeah.
That was the hardest thing for us when we came back, because he came back from a deployment and then we moved to Germany, and I had expectations of what I felt we were going to do when we arrived. And he had these expectations, and I'm sure you can all probably imagine they were very, very, very different. And we didn't really talk about that because we're like, oh, this is our first deployment. We're pros at this, right? We know what we're doing. Negative. And I think we could have solved a lot of problems if we had just had a conversation. And so for us, we have those conversations on walks.
Yeah, I love it. And same, we go on a lot of walks, and it's one of those things where if I'm thinking it, I feel like he should know it, you know, like,
yes.
why don't you understand? Because it's like, no, I actually have to like tell him. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a whole nother Coffee Connection Live, y'all.
Oh yes, I know. I used to do master resilience training, and we had an entire session basically on mind reading. Yeah. Which, you know, is one of the biggest barriers to communication, is this assumption that the person that you're closest to knows what you need or what you're thinking. And I still get frustrated when I'm like, why do I need to tell you that leaving the knives on the side of the sink is annoying? Like, that means that the kitchen is not clean. You're like, why do I need to tell you? But I do need to tell him, because to him, he's like, oh, it's not a big deal. I cleaned everything else.
Right. And then he's thinking, you should go take a nap. You should.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did your nap in yet? Evie, this has been so much fun. I want to make sure that everybody that is joining us today and then watching the recording, they're able to sign up for the Independent Wellness Summit. So can you tell them where to go? And then we will say our goodbyes to everybody.
Yes. So you can go on in-dependent.org. So independent, or you can just put in Military Spouse Wellness Summit into Google and it will pop up. That's probably the easiest way. It's funny enough, Military Spouse Wellness is how I found Independent to begin, but it's in-dependent.org/wellness-summit is like the actual URL. But again, I just encourage you to go on Google. And this year's theme is all about flourish. So the opposite of flourish is kind of like stagnation and feeling stuck. And flourish is that forward movement, but when you feel like you're growing, but without burnout, right? Because that's never, ever what we want or try to accomplish here is wellness without the burnout.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. 2022 is going to be the year, y'all. It starts now, or it started in January. Whenever you're ready, it starts. But we're happy to have all of you here. We really appreciate you. As you go about your day, let's keep connecting, making friends, reaching out to others, and just make sure you're all practicing self-care and taking care of yourself as well. Mm-hmm. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.